Hello everyone, I'm Kathy Hopinka Hannon, and I am the Chairman of the Board and National President of Girl Scouts of the USA, and I'd like to welcome you here to Philadelphia and to the Girl Agenda 2018, Leading Change Through Civic Action. Philadelphia has always been a place for big ideas, a place where American democracy was born and our country's first leaders came together to really address and overcome the challenges that they faced. Now, we've come a long way since the Constitutional Convention, but the challenges we face today are just as real, and it really requires that same type of innovation and approach. We need a society today made up of civically engaged citizens who really care about their communities and want to make their world a better place. As leaders of America's best girls leadership development organization, we at Girl Scouts know we have the answer. And it's girls and it's women. During this crucial time in our history, Girl Scouts has the opportunity to lead the way and show girls how to be thoughtful, engaged leaders who truly can make a difference. At Girl Scouts, we know that when girls are given the skills, encouragement, and opportunity to lead, they have nearly unlimited potential to change the world. Today, girls are motivated, determined, sophisticated, and amazingly aware of the world around them. They are connected to their communities and care about making them better. In fact, wherever you go in the world and you find Girl Scouts, you find girls who are working to make their community better and have a positive impact on the world. And that's why I want to do a shout out to a few of our 1,000 plus girls who are live streaming this event today from across the globe. So I want to do a special hello to Jane in France, to Faharna in Qatar, and to Sarah, who's at Camp Humphreys in South Korea. So welcome all girls. Since our founding over 100 years ago, civic engagement really has been a cornerstone of Girl Scouts and of the Girl Scout experience. In keeping with that legacy, this year we launched the Girl Agenda, a nonpartisan initiative to inspire, prepare, and mobilize girls and those who care about girls to lead positive change through greater civic action. We've also expanded our civic engagement work to include a Daisy Citizen Badge and provided new ways for Girl Scouts of all ages really to help take the vital skills that they learn at Girl Scouts and turn them into even greater action. From Daisies as young as 5 to our Gold Award Girl Scouts who earn the highest and most prestigious award in Girl Scouts. Them across the country, they're all engaged in their communities, working again to make the world a better place. But Girl Scouts is also about connecting today's girls with courageous female role models and leaders who can help guide them to even more civic engagement. Civic engagement is about stepping up. It's about taking a stand for what you believe in and really working through your community to find solutions that work for everyone. So today, we are going to hear from some of those amazing women leaders, women who have changed our world forever and for the better because they chose to be engaged. They chose to stand up, speak out, and put their time and talents to work for the good of our country. We're here to be inspired. We're here to inspire. We're here to empower and to encourage the new generation of Girl Scouts and girls everywhere to use their voices to have a positive impact in communities across the country and around the world. Only when we leverage the full potential of all our girls, one of America's latest and greatest underutilized resources, we will rise to meet the challenges of tomorrow. So thank you for being here. Now next I have the honor of introducing one of our future leaders, Elka Deshpande. She is a Girl Scout ambassador from Girl Scouts of Chesapeake Bay. So welcome, Elka.
Good afternoon. My name is Alka Deshpande, and I'm a Girl Scout ambassador from Girl Scouts of the Chesapeake Bay in Wilmington, Delaware. I'm so excited to be here today to get inspired by and learn from women and girls who have led positive change through civic action in their communities and beyond. In the 10 years that I've been a Girl Scout, I worked to improve the environment by taking on a range of community conservation projects with my troop. I'm on my way to earning my Girl Scout Gold Award by developing a sustainable plan that will protect endangered butterflies. Being a part of Girl Scouts has given me amazing opportunities that have allowed me to learn new skills, grow, and gain leadership abilities that I know will take me through life. Today, I'm honored to introduce Dr. Jill Biden, a remarkable woman who hails from my home state of Delaware. She is a Girl Scout alum and a leader, changemaker, educator, and inspiration to girls and families everywhere. Dr. Biden served as Second Lady of the United States from 2009 to 2017 and has dedicated her life to emphasizing the essential role of community colleges in educating our workforce. She has advocated for the rights of women and girls, supported military families, and demonstrated courage, confidence, and character every step of the way. This year, Dr. Biden and her husband, former Vice President Joe Biden, launched the Biden Foundation, continuing their work to strengthen the middle class, protect women and children against violence, advocate for community colleges, and support military families. Dr. Biden is truly a GIRL. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Biden to the stage.
Well, hello, and thank you, Elka. And I love that you're from my home state of Delaware. How nice of you to be here. And you're at Mount Pleasant, right? Mount Pleasant High School? Okay, so, well, hello, Girl Scouts, all of you in the audience, and hello to all the elected officials who are here today. When I was growing up, just a little while ago, there were really very different attitudes about what girls could be and really what we could do. And a lot of people still thought girls shouldn't even have jobs or go to college. And I can remember really clearly my mother didn't work, and I didn't know, I think I knew one girl whose mother worked when I was growing up. And I can still remember her name because I felt sorry for her, you know, that her mother worked. So do you see how, like, things have changed so incredibly just in really my short lifetime, or actually my long lifetime. So, you know, they used to think that girls' aspirations really weren't as important as boys. And luckily for me, I grew up the oldest of 5, hopefully fun, rambunctious, and often outspoken girls. And when people told us that we couldn't do something, when boys tried to, you know, cut us down or make us feel small, we were there, all of us, to stick up for one another. And there was another sisterhood that made us feel valuable, that helped us grow and taught us just how strong we were. And that was the Girl Scouts. And it meant so much just to have a place just for us where we could challenge ourselves and learn more about the world and hear a message that our society didn't always believe, that yes, girls are powerful too. And the values that I learned in Girl Scouts helped make me who I am today. And that's especially true of the qualities that make up the girl agenda: go-getter, innovator, risk-taker, and leader. And I'd like to talk a bit about those, what those have meant to me over my life and my life's work. And It's so funny seeing the girls in their uniforms. It just takes me back, to when I was young and a Girl Scout, and I don't see any white gloves. I remember we always had to wear white gloves with our uniform, and that doesn't exist anymore, right? No. And I'm trying to think what else I remember. Well, my mother was a Girl Scout leader, so of course at cookie time we had like 1,000,000 boxes of cookies all in our house. And my father would always open them up and eat them. So, we kept having to buy more and more cookies all the time. But and I can remember they used to allow us on the day that we had meetings, we were allowed to wear a uniform to school. And oh my gosh, we were so proud that we could wear our uniforms. We looked forward to that every day of the week. So first, the G for go-getter. I knew from a young age that I wanted two things in my life. A marriage like my parents, who had just this wonderful marriage, strong and loving. And the best thing was it was full of laughter. But I also wanted a career. And once I met Joe, the marriage part fell into place. But suddenly, I was a senator's wife at age 23 and raising 3 children. And most people didn't expect me to work. They thought, oh, once I married Joe, I would give up my job. But you know what? I had ambitions too. And I couldn't just live Joe's life. So I went after my dreams. I raised our 3 kids. I worked full-time as a public school teacher and then a community college teacher. So you probably know I worked at Claymont and Brandywine and St. Mark's, and so a lot of different high schools in the state of Delaware. And then I ended up at Del Tech. And then while I was teaching, I always took 1 or 2 classes a semester at night. Unfortunately, I was always the oldest student there. But in the end, I completed 2 master's degrees and a doctorate. And when we won the White House in 2008, I moved my career to D.C. And I found a position at Northern Virginia Community College right outside of Washington. And it's called Nova. So for 8 years, I lived really kind of a double life. I was like second lady and I was Dr. B. So I ran between study sessions with single moms at night and dinner with the most powerful man on earth the next night. And a lot of times, it's funny, when I think back on it, I would be at the White House at 7 o'clock in the morning having my hair and makeup done for an interview on the Today Show, which I would do, they run so quickly, like 5 minutes. And then I would hop in the car and I would be driven to Nova, where I would have office hours at 7:30 in the morning. So it really was kind of a interesting dichotomy. And there were a few times when we were flying home from an event, and I have to tell you, this is one of the best things of being vice president. We had our own plane. So, but I had to take my work, my papers, and so we'd be on the plane, and there was like this little nook under the vice presidential seal, and I would sit there and grade my papers on the floor. I'm an English teacher, so I teach composition, I teach writing. So my papers and thus my students went with me everywhere. So I'd be grading there late at night so that people on the plane could sleep. So, juggling everything took persistence, determination, and resilience at times. But it was always worth it, because teaching really is more than a job for me. I think are there any teachers in here? Oh, good. Okay, then you know this. I don't even have to say it to you. It's not just a job, right? It's a calling. It's who you are. I feel like it's who I am. And sometimes you go out and get what you want, even when it's not easy. But chasing those dreams pays off. being a teacher made me really a better second lady, a better wife, a better mom, and a better person. All right, and that brings me to the second quality I want to talk about, the I, innovator. And being a teacher means that you have to think on your feet. When there isn't a budget for supplies, when schedules get changed around, when students bring you problems you never learned about in grad school. And that happens a lot because I think students tend to go to their teachers. You know, they have trust in them. It's somebody they can go to outside of their parents. They feel like somebody who could give them advice and counsel them. And teachers find a way through the chaos. And we use what we have. We innovate. To be a good teacher, you know that you have to be creative. And you have to incorporate technology and social media and visual media. But most of all, you have to incorporate thought. You have to make your students really think about what they're learning and what they're seeing and the world around them. And so earlier, just about 20 minutes ago, we had all the military girls come up. Girls, would you raise your hand so everybody knows who you are? All right. So the Bidens, thank you. And thank you for your service and for your family's service. You know, the Bidens are a military family, and my dad was in the Navy during World War II, and my son, Bo, served a tour in Iraq as a member of the Delaware Army National Guard. And when he deployed, you know, we spoke as often as we could. We even brought a laptop to election night. So it was 2008, and he was deployed October, I think it was 4th. And so on election night, it was just 1 month before the election. And so it was bittersweet. I mean, we won, and but think of it, on election night, what we did, we got him on Skype. And as we walked out onto the stage, we had him on the laptop, and we said, Bo, come on, you're going to be with us. We're going to walk out there with you. And he was with his unit. It was like so cool. And we, you know, the curtains opened as we walked out onto the stage, and we walked out with him so that he could, you know, see it and be a part of it. It was really just, you know, it was really a great moment in the lives of my family. But, you know, of course, it wasn't the same as his being there. So while I worried as his mother, I don't have to tell the military families in here, my grandkids, his children, Natalie and Hunter, you know, they felt his absence every single day. Every soccer game, every school presentation, every family dinner. We did our best to love them and make them feel special. But, you know, there's always, as you look down that table, and all of you military children here know, you see that empty seat at the table. And you know that that's where your dad or your mom would have sat during your birthday, during Thanksgiving, during Christmas. So you always have that feeling that that they're gone. And so, you know, there's thousands of military kids who are girls who are members of the Girl Scouts here and around the world. So many of them know what it's like to say goodbye to a parent who's deployed. And many of them know what it's like to move from base to base to base. It's not like they just move 1 or 2 times in their lives. They move 3, 6, 9, 12 times. It's a lot. It's a lot to take on. And as second lady, you know, I had the chance to meet so many boys and girls who, while their parents serve, are sacrificing in their own way. And, you know, they are some of the strongest, most resilient kids around. And they do have to deal with concerns that, you know, most most kids their age don't have to deal with. And it can really be tough at times. And that's why it's so important for teachers and the community around them to find ways to help them, to wrap your arms around them and make them feel supported. So in our family, my granddaughter Natalie, her teacher put a picture up right outside the door of her classroom so that when all the children in Natalie's class walked into class every day, they would know that Natalie's daddy was away and that he was fighting in the war. And that made such a difference to Natalie, that to know that other people knew, that her daddy wasn't there. And a few years ago, I traveled to Kansas and to meet with our military, and I met with a teacher who used a cardboard box and the virtual reality app. Do you know it? Yeah. To help military kids feel less isolated from their other students, from their peers. So with the help of these, the virtual reality glasses, they were able to take the kids, the military kids, were able to take the other students on tours of places that they had lived or visited. And like Germany, Japan, Guam, turning the challenge of military deployments into something that made them a little bit more special than the other kids. So teachers are always looking for ways to innovate and to teach their kids to help them reach and to grow. But you don't have to be a teacher to do that. And when it comes to challenges like supporting our military kids, all of us, every single one of us in this room, every single one of us in this country can do his or her part. And Girl Scouts is doing that through USA Girl Scouts overseas, giving girls a place to build friendships and challenge themselves in 97 countries. And every one of us can do something too. Maybe it's reaching out to your neighbor who's going through a deployment. Maybe it's creating a project that will honor our service members and their families. Or maybe, and this is probably the best one, to just reach out to that new girl who comes into your classroom because one of her parents has been deployed or moved and she is in a new school. Innovation doesn't have to be some impressive technology. It can simply come as a challenge from a new perspective. And it's confronting problems with an open mind and a willingness to find the right solution. It's taking a chance. Which brings me to our next value, which is the R, risk taker. So there's good and bad risk taking, which I'm sure you all know. So I have to tell you a story that's kind of funny to me. I don't know whether you're going to find it so funny. But so I kind of liked playing pranks when I was a young girl. And as I said, my mother was a Girl Scout leader. And my best friend's mother was our Girl Scout leader. So we went away to a camp, and they had the tents. And, they would they would stuff like 15 girls in those tents. Do you still do that? No? 4 girls to a tent? Oh my gosh, we used to be squashed in there, and those tents would smell all mildewy and everything. Yeah. So anyway, so we were at dinner, and so I decided to get my friend, and we were going to pull a prank. So we went out while everybody was eating. We just quietly went out, and we took rolls of toilet paper, and we toilet papered all the tents. And at that time, this is hysterical, that was thought to be so bad. And so then they discovered after dinner that this had been done to the tents. And they called us all in, and they said, okay, this is what happened, and who's going to admit that they did it? So, we're Girl Scouts. We had to be honest, right? The Girl Scout pledge, I will do my duty. Yeah, on my honor, I will try to do my duty to God and my country. And so, of course, I stood up and I said, well, I did it, and I wasn't going to rat out my friend. But then she stood up and she said, I did it too. And here we were, the daughters of the two leaders who had committed this horrible thing. And when I think of it now, it was like we were so bad. But, I mean, it's such a prank. It's just so ridiculous to me now. But I have to tell you about this other woman, young woman, that I met through my travels. And her name was Aaliyah. And she lived in the Kibera community in Kenya, in Nairobi, Kenya. And it's the largest urban slum in Africa, where they have no electricity, none, and little running water. And the houses, I mean, they're shacks, literally, and there's just dirt everywhere. I mean, just these little dirt paths between the houses. And a news correspondent called it 600 acres of mud and filth with a brown stream dribbling through the middle. So that's pretty descriptive. So I think you probably have a picture of what that looked like. Anyway, in this poverty-stricken, often violent community, Aaliyah, and I'll never forget her because she was dressed in a suit and she had on blue eyeshadow. And I kept thinking, I went to her home, and honestly, in her home, she had a chair, one plastic chair. It was one room, and then there was a place for a fire, and then like a mattress. And it struck me, I thought, where does she put her clothes, and how did she put on that eyeshadow with no mirror? You know, it's just like the little things that I just amazed me about her. But she had dedicated her life to educating young girls about teenage pregnancy, early marriage, and sexual assault. And these are topics that are really taboo and really dangerous to talk about. And her life was really difficult. And she deals with heartbreaking stories every single day. And she often faces violence because of what she does in helping other young girls in her community. And I asked her once, I said, Aaliyah, you know, you're so smart and you have such a bright future ahead of you. What are you going to do with your life? Where are you going to go? And she said, I'm not going anywhere. I want to make a difference here. I want to make a difference here in my community. So she reminded me of something that Rosa Parks once wrote. And she said, I've learned over the years that when one's mind is made up, this diminishes fear. Knowing what must be done does away with fear, end quote. And sometimes there's a cost to our following our convictions. Sometimes we have to risk embarrassment or failure, you know, to follow our hearts. For Aaliyah, she had to risk a lot to serve her community. But she does it because that's her calling, because it's the right thing to do. She inspired me to be courageous, to try some things that seem scary and hard, because, you know, when we're willing to take those risks, the payoff may be that we can change someone's life for the better. And finally, our last value, your last value, being a leader. Really, this brings all the qualities together: persistence and determination, innovation and creativity, courage in the face of our fears, the skills and principles that are represented in every badge that you wear. And God, I love doing those badges. So I'm sure you all felt the same way. You know, I remember that so clearly, trying to get one badge after the other and how much they meant to me. And I truly believe that girls like all of you, the girls across our nation, are becoming the leaders of tomorrow. So not surprisingly, a lot of incredible young leaders I've met come from the military community, like Miranda and Kylie, two friends whose parents were in the National Guard. And they started a nationwide network to help young girls who were struggling with emotional problems because, you know, they gave advice to one another when their parents were deployed. And there are amazing Girl Scouts in this room and all across the country and the nation. As you said, you know, this is being broadcast everywhere. And like Troop 60789 from Aurora, Colorado, who drafted a bill banning smoking in cars with minors. Now that just seems to make sense, doesn't it? And it passed 6-5. And Cassie, a Girl Scout who, at 16 years old, built a coalition of 6 legislators in New Hampshire to raise the legal age of child marriage. Her bill didn't pass the first time, but because Cassie hasn't stopped advocating for girls in her state, the next time it will. And Alka, who introduced me, she's worked so hard to save endangered butterflies, defend our ecosystem, and protect her local environment for future generations to come. You know, a lot has changed since I was a little girl and I was a Brownie and a Girl Scout. But one thing has stayed the same. Girl Scouts is building girls of courage and confidence and character who make the world a better place. Girl Scouts help girls succeed in a world that, though we've made so much progress, still offers challenges where there should be opportunities. But as Maya Angelou, the writer, the poet, once wrote, I've learned that making a living is not the same as making a life. In this organization, as you learn to go after your dreams, to innovate and take risks, to stand up for your beliefs, you're not just getting badges or preparing yourselves for college and careers. You are learning, most importantly, to be sisters and friends and neighbors and, yes, leaders. And that's what the world needs. You are making a life that you all can feel proud of. And on behalf of my husband, Joe, the former vice president, and me, on behalf of your troop leaders and teachers, on behalf of your parents and your families, let me say that we are so, so proud of you. Think of yourself as the next Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the Supreme Court. Think of yourself as the next Michelle Obama, you know, our fabulous First Lady. Think of yourself as the young Malala, standing up for girls' education. Grab on to your passion or whatever defines you as a leader. Stand up. Find your voice. Have the courage to speak out. Believe in yourself. Create change. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson, and I represent the 30th Congressional District of Texas. I've devoted my life to public service, first as a nurse, and then in the Texas House and the Texas Senate, and now as a senior member of Congress. I learned a lot about doing the right thing as a Girl Scout. When I was a young girl, Girl Scouts welcomed me and other young African American girls with open arms. Girl Scouts not only respected our voices, but encouraged us to use them to create positive change. For more than a century, Girl Scouts have been preparing girls to be leaders in their own lives, in their communities, and in their country. And Girl Scout alums from coast to coast have helped to make our world a better place. Preparing today's girls to meet the challenges of tomorrow is one of the best investments our country can make. I am very heartened and proud of the recent efforts made by the Girl Scouts with their initiative, Girl Agenda. This program allows Girl Scouts to continue to lift all girls up and give them the tools to stand up for what's right and take meaningful action toward a better future. It is my hope that Girl Scouts will continue to pave the way for more young girls to be confident in voicing their opinions, getting involved, and helping make changes to better their local communities.
Hi, I'm Senator Cory Gardner from the great state of Colorado. I'm excited the Girl Agenda, powered by Girl Scouts, is giving girls the tools to speak up, speak out, and make a difference. As a proud Coloradan, I know that the West has always been the land of opportunity. But we must ensure that young people today have the tools they need to work to find solutions and make sure that those opportunities to make the world a better place are not lost. My family and I know that girls are at the center of everything Girl Scouts do and are the focus of its powerful mission to build girls of courage, confidence, and character. Girl Scouts empowers the girls who are going to lead our country to soaring new heights, change our world forever, and for the better. When it comes to improving society, every person who identifies as a girl, go-getter, innovator, risk-taker, and leader, and has a role and responsibility. And we need more young people to be involved, to ask the questions, to let us know their concerns, because this is their country too. So get involved, step up, and speak out. The time is now. Girl Scouts, GIRL Agenda. Resources are free and tailored to prepare you to take civic action at any age.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today at Independence National Historical Park, surrounded by Independence Hall, the Liberty Bell, Congress Hall, and other historic buildings associated with the founding of the United States. I'm Kim Freitas-Dow, CEO of Girl Scouts of Eastern Pennsylvania. With the support of more than 15,000 dedicated volunteers, parents, and community partners, the Eastern Pennsylvania Council works each day to deliver the Girl Scout leadership experience to close to 40,000 girls in 9 counties, including right here in Philadelphia. I have an incredibly exciting job. Every day I get to work with girls of all backgrounds and interests to help them tap into their leadership abilities and become the future drivers of our economy, our communities, our country, and the world. At Girl Scouts, that has been our mission for more than a century. That's why I'm delighted to introduce our moderator for today, along with our first slate of panelists who, in their roles as elected officials, are dynamic change makers. Their complete profiles can be found in your program, but I'm going to briefly recognize them now. First, I would like to welcome Dr. Melissa Harris-Perry, the Maya Angelou Presidential Chair at Wake Forest University. She is an award-winning author, editor-at-large of Elle.com, a contributing editor at The Nation, and co-host of the independent media project Freedom on Tap. She is also the former host of MSNBC's Melissa Harris-Perry and was awarded the Hillman Prize for Broadcast Journalism. Former Congresswoman Donna Edwards is a Girl Scout alum and the first African American woman to represent Maryland in Congress, where she served for 5 terms. She also served as a co-chair of Troop Capitol Hill. Congresswoman Edwards began her career at Lockheed Corporation, now Lockheed Martin, at the Goddard Space Flight Center, went on to become a consumer advocate for Public Citizen, a nonprofit consumer advocacy organization that champions the public interest in the halls of power, and co-founded and led the National Network to End Domestic Violence. She is currently running for public office, the position of County Executive of Prince George's County in Maryland. Pennsylvania Representative Catherine Watson was first elected to the state legislature in 2000 and has focused her legislative priorities on protecting the rights of children and families, healthcare and prescription drug affordability, improving highway safety, and education. Now, in her final term in office, she serves as chair of the House Children and Youth Committee. Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman represents New Jersey's 12th congressional district in the United States Congress. She currently serves as a co-chair of Troop Capitol Hill, a bipartisan delegation of female members of Congress established to educate Congress about issues affecting girls and young women. In 2016, Congresswoman Watson Coleman co-founded the Congressional Caucus on Black Women and Girls, and she's an active member of the Congressional Black Caucus and the Congressional Caucus for Women's Issues. And finally, Philadelphia City Councilwoman Helen Gim is a Girl Scout alum and community and education leader who has spent more than 2 decades as an organizer in the areas of public education and immigrant rights. She established Philadelphia's first legal defense fund for tenants facing eviction and a fund to address youth homelessness. She is the first Asian American woman to serve on Philadelphia's City Council. Before I turn things over to Dr. Harris Perry, I would like to say a special thank you to Philadelphia City Council for passing a resolution honoring Girl Scouts and the Council's continued support of girls throughout our community. And finally, if you have a question for any of our panelists, please write it down on one of the note cards located on your seat and pass it to one of our volunteers who will be collecting them before the end of the panel. Now, please join me in welcoming our first panel.
Thank you so much. What an honor to be here and have this opportunity. I keep looking down at my phone because before we began, sent a text to my mother and my aunt telling them that I was going to be moderating a panel with the Girl Scouts. This has set off a bit of a frenzy in the family. I just want to share a tiny bit of it with you. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, Anne Gray, who also never worked for pay outside the home, although she always worked, and never had the opportunity to go to college, although she was a brilliant woman. My maternal grandmother loved the Girl Scouts, and they are remembering a lot of Girl Scout activity, including her work with Troop 7 in the Inland Empire Council. They sent me a picture of her little 1953 bronze Girl Scouts USA trophy that she was awarded. She then apparently in 1965 went to the Girl Scout Senior Roundup in the wildlife area in North Dakota from July 17th to July 26th with 12,000 girls. This grandmother is not an African-American grandmother. I'm thinking about what my African-American grandmother was probably doing in the summer of 1965 while my white grandmother was doing the roundup. It's a lot of intersectional family history going on with the Girl Scouts with a lot of pictures, and it's fascinating. I too was a Brownie and a Girl Scout. We were talking about it as we sat.
Brownie, Girl Scout. I was too. Yes. A Brownian.
So, with that history on the table, let me start with the next question, because I want to walk through a couple of things before we get to thinking about the impact that you all make as public servants. So I know a little bit about at least 3 of the 4 of you had some Girl Scout related leadership experience. What was so I want to know from each one of you what was the first office for which you ever ran. And I'd like to know from each of you what was the first office that you won.
The first office I ever ran for was United States House of Representatives, and it's the first office I won.
Oh, sure. I have to go second after that. Let's see. The first office I ever ran for was for student council. I lost. But my maiden name is McDowell, so I still remember. Be wise like an owl. Vote for McDowell. Wasn't a winner. Okay, was not a winner. And then ultimately I did run for school board and won that, and ran for township supervisor and won that, and then ultimately got to the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, in all honesty, because they talked me into it. Do not make that mistake, ladies. Get in early.
So for clarity, I tried to be a brownie. And I went to the meeting, and they told me that the troop was filled up. I was very disappointed. In a little town called Morristown, I know, and I was scarred for life. But then the Girl Scouts came and asked me to be the co-troop leader, so you kind of made my day, my life. Thank you. So the first, you made me think of the first office I ever ran for, which was the president of my senior class, and I lost by a little bit of votes. But the first public office I ever ran for was the assembly seat in the New Jersey General Assembly that my father once held, and I won. And then the second was the House of Representatives, and I won. And here I am today.
So I came through a lot of community organizing experience that never really saw politics as the path of power. But I've been part of a lot of really great organizing within communities, especially public education communities in the city of Philadelphia. And those were the communities, all the work that we were doing to bring back and restore priorities within our public schools and investments in them were what drove me to run for my first chance at office in 2016, which was for city council, which I did win.
Now, Melissa, before we go, probably someone out there is going to remember that I was the 11th grade class president at Manzano High School in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I don't want to leave that.
Don't leave that out. So one of the reasons I wanted to ask that is we know from the research that girls in particular, women as well, but especially girls, are rarely asked to run. So we look at boys with talent, we look at boys who are smart and who walk into a room and control the space and can give a speech and who are smart, and we say, man, you should think about running for office someday. And we say it to them from the time they're 4, 5, 6, 10, 12. By the time they're in high school, they've heard you should run for office someday 100 times. Girls who are smart and control the space and can give a speech sometimes have never heard someone say, you should, they hear, you should marry someone who runs. I mean, not that one shouldn't marry someone who runs for office, but y'all could both run for office. Both of you girls. So, I'm interested to know, when was the first time, or can you remember someone saying to you, you ought to run for office? Have you ever thought about running for, I'll help you run for office.
Well, actually, never. Even when I ran in high school, I was kind of an insurgent candidate. You know, the color of change, I was the insurgent candidate. But in fact, when I decided to run for my congressional seat, I went around, I knew somebody should run, and I went around asking everyone else if they would run. And mostly I was just asking men who already held elective office if they would run, and they said no because they didn't think they could win. And it wasn't until everyone turned me down that I decided to run myself, but no one ever asked me to do it.
I think I was very blessed. Dr. Biden had talked about growing up in a family. I I had an Irish father and a grandfather who told me I could do anything, but I had to have a good education. And you can look at me and think, wow, even those days, all the way back in those days? And the answer is yes, that is very true. So it never occurred to me. Now, my grandfather's idea was that I would be the Shirley Temple of the future, except that I sing second alto and I flunked out of dancing school at age 4. So I did get public speaking and did all of that and loved it. So yes, I could do that. And I really believed that that's what I would do. And I had an education. I was fortunate to get a scholarship. If I can give a quick shout out to the University of Pennsylvania, where at the time when I went in the very late 60s on an academic scholarship, my parents never had money or anything like that, but they also had the saying, Penn women can do anything. I don't know if that's true, but I sure believed it. So I assumed that at some time I would get to do those things. People did come and ask me to run, and I thought, well, okay, because, you know, my father said, I do come, and I think I'm unlike you folks. I come from a county, Bucks County, where at the time when I was running, we have a female commissioner of the 3, at least 1. At times we've had 2. Our row offices have been female. The party that I'm with, they have to have for committee people a man and a woman. So it never occurred to me when you asked me to be part of this that women weren't. However, can I quickly say, there's not enough in Harrisburg. Please, all of you, in the future, do that. I'm going, but I tried to stir up trouble wherever I go, and we'll continue. But we don't have enough, and you're 51% in Pennsylvania. Heaven knows across the country and the world the numbers. Please run for office. Even when you think you can't, yes, you can, and you have so much to give.
Well, I was never asked by any of the establishment people, even though I decided that I was going to run for the seat that my father had once held. And I made that decision under tremendous emotion because he had died. That was my way of honoring him. Now, he always said that one of us should run for office, and he looked at me when he said that. But women told me, you should run for office, but no one from the establishment said that. And when I decided to run, I had to demonstrate that I was the best candidate. And for a woman, you know, we're used to taking care of other people. And so we're used to asking on behalf of other people. And I suddenly found myself in very uncomfortable space. But you get over it, young ladies, you get over it. You learn to say what you have to offer, why someone should support you, and you ask on your behalf. And that's what I had to do. And I won that seat, and come time for Congress, some people did suggest that I might run for that, and I thought, no way, but here I am. You know, we never know what God has for you, so just always be prepared and be ready.
And I will also echo the congresswomen here. I think I came into Philadelphia City Council, which is a large-ranging, one of the few city councils that has a citywide at-large seat. So it's a wide-ranging, free-for-all kind of race. And I came in after a lot of work around public education. This was a state that is the worst in the nation when it comes to the funding gap between the poorest and wealthiest school districts. We had seen a governor cut out a huge sum of money from public education. It closed down 24 schools, laid off all these nurses and counselors, and we were trying to bring it back. And we had brought in I had always been politically engaged all my life, to get people into the idea that we can make a difference. That's how I define politics, not just by elections and candidates, but that we can make a difference. We can talk about the issues that matter to us. We can go and get involved with other folks. So when the city council seat came through, I was like, man, someone should run on this public education agenda. It is there for the taking. So I watched as 21 people, actually 27 people, jumped into the city council at large race. And I looked at each and every one of them and I thought, you know what? That person's going to be me. And I think that that is something that all of these women, all of us in this room have to really think about, that there is a time when it is you. And you should know that it's your right to step into that space. No matter who said that you could or not, no. This is your right to take your moment. It's your place to step up and to assert your own voice and identity, and the people will follow.
Helen. So Helen, I want to come back to you specifically because I think you represent both a generation and a set of movements that have a lot of skepticism about electoral politics as a space for change making. In part because the institutions are slow. You got to work with a lot of people who are already there, who are playing by a set of rules that many people find to be themselves sort of grinding. Why do it? Why be one person in that machine?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and I agree with you. I come out of a lot of communities, immigrant communities, Asian American communities, communities that have long fought for justice, who've often felt that the politics may have neglected or silenced us, and it never felt like a space of power. But I will say I was part of a lot of communities that nevertheless took on the aggressive role of making change, and I think that's the theme here today, about how to be an agent for change. And what I think we were able to do was to really build up some collective power, some broad-based movement. So you're not just one young woman standing up on your own. You're speaking with 20 other women to talk about what it means to stand up for the quality of your public schools, to demand that your parks be fixed up and cleaned up, that we care about the safety of our young people in the juvenile justice system, that we're going to centralize the needs of working women as well. So because I came out of all these collective movements, we have been working for a long time for change. So suddenly, our idea that politics is a top-down kind of idea where something gets established at the top and it trickles down to the rest of us, no. We need to see change come from the bottom up. So we started building the public education agenda, the criminal justice agenda, the women's working rights agenda, a healthcare agenda that would speak to a broad swath of people, because we had to see change come from the bottom up, led by the people who are living the consequences of policies, and we're suffering under them in many cases. So I think what I wanted to say is that when that collective movement comes together, we force through a vision for change, that the movement up is really the sweeping role of what people can do to counter some of the power and the privilege and wealth that often comes with electoral politics. And we've seen that make a sweeping amount of change, and it's actually more powerful, more sustainable, more rewarding, and more sweeping when we can do it as a collective group.
Thank you. Representative Watson-Coleman, I want to build on that answer because when I think about one of the challenges that often young girls face, middle-aged women face, older women face, it is that we can be very easily underestimated in public space. And I often think of you as one of the most underestimated members of the House of Representatives. So I was just asking about, being in these big institutions that move slowly and I mean, have you seen Congress lately? Y'all are like a bit of a mess. But every time I interview you, every time I talk with you, every time I just log onto Instagram, I'm always like, oh, there's Representative Bonnie just making good trouble again. Your story is, I think, surprising for people. The positions you are willing to take publicly, the hits you're willing to take. How do you deal with being underestimated and then, bringing the black girl magic?
Well, you just took it from me. I am black and I am a woman, so I've been underestimated from as long as I can remember. But that's just the space in which I had to formulate who I was going to be and what I was going to do. And I take the positions that I take because it comes out of my heart and my head. And my position is, don't be there if you can't be honest to the work that you need to do. So sometimes it is controversial, and sometimes it even makes my leadership a little bit nervous, but that's too bad. I tell them I'm just too old to waste time. We don't have time to waste time. But let me just tell you this one thing that really heartens me. It came out of the tragedy of Parkland. But I have seen the most incredible, brilliant, articulate, grounded, knowledge-based, and value-based young boys and girls, young men and young women, and women, females, are leading that way. And they're not only leading in terms of the issues and promising us elected officials that are going to hold us accountable, they're even making sure that no one is left behind. When they found that black students weren't being as interviewed or engaged as the white students, who stood up? The white students. I think that they're showing us that there's going to be a new way of living and respecting and working, and that they're even prepared today to make promises to us civically and to hold us accountable. And that really heartens me tremendously, because I am in Congress and we're not standing still. We're literally moving backwards. So we need women to run for office at the highest levels so that we can turn these things around.
I'm getting signs, but I want to just ask Donna Edwards. They wanted me to ask, what is the legislative accomplishment you're most proud of? But I want to go on the risk-taker idea. Tell me a failure you've had that you've learned the most from.
Well, 2 years ago in 2016, I ran for the United States Senate. And in fact, just a couple of days ago, someone said to me, you know, I wish you had stayed in Congress because I knew that if you ran for the Senate, you would lose. And I said to this gentleman, I said, well, and he said, well, maybe that was just about your ambition. And I said, well, you know, nobody ever asks a man about his ambition. Men are allowed to have ambition, and I have ambition too. And I think what I learned from running in that Senate race and losing, I learned still the power of an impact of gender on politics. I learned the power and the impact of race on politics. And while it was 2016, it may have felt a little bit like it was in the middle of the last century, but it reminded me again of the importance of stepping out and taking a chance. And when I think back on that run for the Senate, one of the reasons that I decided to run is because Senator Barbara Mikulski had retired. She was the first woman elected on her own in the United States Senate. And I thought that that seat could be ably filled by me and by a woman. And I looked at the Senate and I said, well, they've already got some of those other people, so why not me? But I learned a lot from that. And in part, it's the reason that I decided to run for a very local office, Prince George's County Executive, where we can make decisions about schools and how our children are educated, and about how you fill the potholes on the road, and things that really have a deep impact on people's everyday lives. And so for me, the lesson was, you know, just because you lose something doesn't mean you don't get up again and try again. And so I'm putting myself out there.
I think I'm so happy you responded in that way. If you're going to be risk takers, there's going to be successes. There's also going to be failures, and if you're going to do it in public office, it'll happen publicly. And here we go.
That's right.
So we have two questions, one from our live stream audience and one from our audience here. I'm actually going to direct the one from our audience here, actually, to Catherine Watson, because I think, especially as you're sort of moving out, I think this is a valuable sort of reflection one. So the question is, how can we ensure collaboration among women in the fields of public policy and public office at a time when we have such rigid partisanship and political contention? I might also add like social media and a sort of gotcha culture where if you cross party lines to do any collaborative work, right, people will jump on you for it.
That is a hard question, and I know our time is short. I pretend that I don't understand. And seriously, I do the bit about I'm just a sweet little matronly lady. And I guess I missed the point. I work well behind the scenes. I know how to massage and make things go. That's what I thought at first when they were asking, and they don't go to take for granted. I've done that bit, and I've made that my art form that you don't know. But that's what I do because it works. But very seriously, what I also do is I just plain do it. I mean, I think you have to just say, look, I will go across the aisle and I will talk to people in the other party. I will argue that I come from the southeast of Pennsylvania where they lump everybody together. And I spoke with the councilwoman said, and then they go, you're all from Philadelphia. That is not a compliment, by the way, when they do that. But usually they also do you people in the southeast, one has to learn to take your pointer finger and move it in a circle. And I just take it and then figure, okay, maybe you beat me this time, but I'll go back and I'll figure out how I succeed the next time. It has to be perseverance. Some might say I was stubborn. I'll take it. I am, very. Because what I'm doing, particularly my interest, is for children. And children don't have a voice. They don't have a voice in the federal government. They don't have a voice in the state government. They don't vote. And they don't hire lobbyists. And so my point's always been to be in Harrisburg. That's my job. I will speak for the children. Children who need to find adoption. Children who need to be protected. It took me 8 years to get the changes to teen driving. They beat me up a lot. And it was mostly, sorry to say, but it was the men. And I just figured, you know what? I'll figure it out. You got me this time, but I learned from it. You were quite correct. You always learn from your mistakes. But if you have perseverance, and if you put yourself out there, you will win in the end, because you're not winning for you. You're winning for what it is you believe in, or some issue that's very important. I think you just do that. I think you look at where you're going and just say, doesn't matter. I'm going there. I will get there. It may take me more time than what you plotted out, but you don't give up, because what you want to do is the right thing. You believe in it because it's right. And I would say that I think it's a model that was always in favor. Yes, it comes from the ground up. A representative